is CNN.
It is the type of verdict that makes you hate everything. It makes you hate this country, the United States of America. It makes you hate that flag. It makes you hate cops. And it makes you hate all white people who can even think of beginning to excuse this verdict.
All my stuff that I've had in here, my keys, everything, and all these clothes were just strewn everywhere. They just took whatever they could grab in 5 seconds.
Looting, unrest, and violence stretch beyond the Los Angeles city limits.
And authorities are stretched to the limit as they try to quell the outrage. This is Newsnight Update. I'm Jonathan Mann.
And I'm Leon Harris. Thanks for joining us. Curfews blanket California's two major cities as authorities try to quell violent reaction in the wake of the verdicts for 4 Los Angeles police officers. San Francisco's curfew is an hour and a half old, called by Mayor Frank Jordan after widespread looting and unrest. He also has declared a state of emergency. Officials say more than 300 people have been arrested and more than 600 police officers are patrolling the streets of San Francisco. In Los Angeles, where the riots began Wednesday, a curfew imposed at sundown is generally being ignored, and the death toll now stands at 23. Police are arresting looters and curfew breakers. Arson fires are still plaguing L.A., more than 100 right now in several areas of the city from South Central L.A. to Hollywood. The rioting is spreading as well, affecting suburbs like Inglewood, Compton, and Long Beach.
For more on the latest from Los Angeles, we go now to CNN's Ann McDermott. Ann?
Well, the citywide curfew seems to have done some good here in this section of Los Angeles known as the Mid-Cities area. But it's not just the curfew. Frankly, there's not a whole lot left for looters right here. As you drive through this area, you see store after store trashed, vandalized, in some cases stripped of all merchandise, even things like light fixtures, anything that could be carted away. So there is a bit of a lull, though, in the action here right now. But earlier, firefighters were kept busy with scores of fires that lit up the Los Angeles skyline. Almost everywhere you go in Los Angeles, you can smell the smoke. And as I mentioned, there were pockets of looting, most of it done by young people, but at times there have been reports of what's appeared to be entire families taking part. But police have been making more and more arrests as the evening wears on. In many areas now, National Guardsmen cradling their rifles are standing by. As most people know by now, the violence began in the poorer areas, poor neighborhoods of South Central Los Angeles. The destruction jumped from neighborhood to neighborhood, though. It's been leapfrogging throughout the evening. One of the new hot spots this evening was Hollywood.
The Hollywood Walk of Fame, where the celebrities tread and where the looters found new feeding ground. An electronics store stripped of most everything of value. A neighborhood restaurant gutted by fire, the flames threatening to do the same to the famous Fredericks of Hollywood lingerie company next door. The fire set by roving mobs.
I need 2 more officers right here to keep the crowd back.
The police were dispatched in force to Hollywood Boulevard, but too late to prevent most of the damage. The activity in Hollywood represents a dramatic spread of the violence from where it began, some miles away in South Central Los Angeles. In a predominantly Jewish neighborhood that borders Hollywood, a small group of looters hit a camera store. Witnesses say one of the young men stood on the building with an automatic rifle, warning curious neighbors to stay away or be shot in the street. The residents pitched in to help firefighters, but nothing could be saved. People stood in disbelief.
I live on the hill. I live in Laurel Canyon. If they decide to torch that, it goes all over.
I'm totally shocked. This is something that happens to somebody else. This is always in the other neighborhood. It's always over there. And suddenly it's happening here.
You guys scared right now?
Very. Yep. My house is the first one on the block over there.
What are you afraid of?
My house will catch on.
Some residents said they were prepared to defend their homes and businesses with force if necessary.
I'm going to protect my city and my area.
You willing to use a gun to do it?
Absolutely. That's what they're doing to us. They're killing our cops.
The lawlessness in Hollywood was more proof that no neighborhood is immune to the reign of terror. And until the violence subsides, no one can feel safe. Fred Wayne for CNN, Los Angeles.
And at the moment in this area of Los Angeles known as the Mid-Cities area, things are fairly quiet right now, but from past experience born of the past 24 hours, I know that can change at any time.
And before you go, one question. Things have quietened down happily where you are. We hope that's the case elsewhere. How much of the violence and the looting that we've seen in that report is tied, do you think, to Rodney King?
That's something community leaders themselves are wondering. They believe that the catalyst was certainly the verdict, and for some people, their righteous, their indignation over that verdict did spark some of the initial violence. But some community leaders are saying now that they think people are just joining in, using this as an excuse for, as it were, for lawlessness.
Now, you mentioned things are getting quieter. Have you had an opportunity to talk to any of the police officers or any of the National Guardsmen out there? Are they confident that they now have the situation in control?
I don't think anybody is saying that right now. In this area, yes, things are quiet. Other areas, we are seeing there are still fires burning in Los Angeles. They are still making arrests for looting. They just brought in about 18 people from down the street that were looting a record store. So I don't think anybody's prepared right now to say when this is going to be over.
Even in the quiet neighborhoods, how well respected is the curfew that's in place?
Well, that's hard to say. We have been seeing people walking up and down the streets. We have not seen, in this area anyway, large groups of people gathering, and I think that's what they're trying to avoid most of all. Single people, people driving through the neighborhoods do not appear to be being molested. Of course, there's no way police officers could stop all of them, but it's difficult to say at this point. I think we'll know more as the evening wears on.
Among the people you have been seeing, are they distinguished by being of any particular age group, any particular race? Is it a broad section of people who are just looking around trying to see what's going on?
It seems there are some people that just seem curious. There are some what you might refer to as street people. I've seen people walking along carrying grocery bags, although, to be honest, I'm not sure where they've been shopping because almost every store up and down this street is closed right now.
Okay, CNN's Ann McDermott reporting live. Thanks very much, Leon.
Well, the city of Atlanta is under curfew to prevent further violence stemming from the King case. Angry black youths rioted through downtown Thursday, throwing rocks, smashing windows, overturning cars, and looting. At least 20 people were injured in the rampage, including motorists who were accosted in the streets.
A group of guys, black gentlemen, about 500 of them, just started rushing in and said, leave now, leave now. There was one guy in the beginning and was going, you better get inside now. And I was like, this is my cart, what do you want? And they went, get out of here now. 5 seconds later, they're right here, jumping on top of this, throwing everything around, grabbing every personal item as if all the merchants just ran. They took things? Oh yeah, all my personal belongings are gone, every bit of money's gone. All my stuff that I've had in here, my keys, everything. And all these clothes were just strewn everywhere. They just took whatever they could grab in 5 seconds.
I'm as disturbed as they are, but I'm even more disturbed by the way in which this justifiable anger has been expressed. It has been expressed illegally. It has been expressed violently, and that cannot be tolerated. No explanation, no reason given, no excuse is good enough to justify episodes of thoughtless violence and destruction.
Atlanta has been quiet since the dusk to dawn curfew began. The Georgia National Guard is on standby in case of further violence. While angry citizens from Baltimore to Boise expressed outrage Thursday over the acquittals, vandals damaged 34 police cars parked in a city garage in Madison, Wisconsin. They left behind notes reading, "Justice for King." Several hundred demonstrators rallied at the Capitol in Austin, Texas. Their protest, like dozens more around the country, was peaceful. Demonstrations are planned for Friday in Chicago and New York.
Once again, a state of emergency is now in force in the city of San Francisco. CNN's Greg Lefebvre is there. He has more details for us now live. Greg?
It is a difficult night here in San Francisco, a city that's known for its freedom of movement and freedom of expression, but the city's on lockdown tonight. Part of the reason why is that this city is so compact and trouble can spread easily from one neighborhood to another. And today, rioters could walk from district to district, and in fact, they did.
Everybody declare this to be an unlawful assembly.
Like the anti-war protests of a year ago, this rapidly descended into roving bands of rioters and looters. Perhaps taking a cue from the uninhibited looting seen in Los Angeles, about 200 to 500 demonstrators marched and smashed their way across San Francisco's elite Nob Hill into the city's posh retail district, Union Square.
I just got beat up by about 15 black guys who stole my camera.
What'd they take? Anything and everything. Cleaned it out from A to Z. Let's go home!
The day opened with angry but peaceful demonstrations at campuses around the Bay Area. Then some of the demonstrators who rallied at UC Berkeley marched several miles onto the Oakland Bay Bridge, snarling traffic. They were arrested and the bridge reopened. At nightfall, looters broke windows and took merchandise along Berkeley's retail street, Telegraph Avenue. The San Francisco march started in the city's mostly minority Mission district, spilled into San Francisco's main commercial district, and then blew up into violence, destruction, and arrests.
I didn't do anything. I was just running.
Looters broke into a locked Macy's store and took clothing, shoes, and jackets. Others took jewelry, cameras, and electronic items from the many stores that cater to tourists and out-of-town shoppers. San Francisco called in all off-duty officers, extended shifts of those on duty, and called for mutual aid from 3 neighboring counties.
We'd hoped that it would be peaceful, and it was, and it turned rather quickly along the way, and as long as they were peaceful, we treated it as a civil demonstration of a peaceful nature, and as quickly as they changed, we started changing.
San Francisco's mayor, Frank Jordan, himself a former police chief, decided to shut down the city, ordering a curfew until dawn.
I urge all citizens to stay indoors during the curfew, that is from 9 p.m. tonight until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. That will enable the police department to bring all disturbances under control.
Police so far have made 340 arrests, and they promise to make a whole lot more if things don't calm down soon. We should point out that San Francisco has a rich and richly deserved reputation for tolerance of freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And apparently the city allowed the demonstrators pretty much to have free roam during the city today. But that all changed just before sunset. It appeared that the demonstrators quit and the rioters took over. Jonathan?
Greg, some questions about the curfew and its success. It seemed, if our clocks were right, that the mayor imposed the curfew that he called for from 9 p.m. Pacific time onwards at about 9:15, after, in fact, it was to have begun. Has word spread? Is the curfew being respected?
Yes, the word has spread, and no, the curfew is not being respected. These riots and this looting take place in very small, isolated pockets throughout the city. Right now, most of the action is around the retail district at Union Square. I don't think a lot of those people are listening to the radio or watching television and have gotten the word. Though that does not matter if police make the arrest, the curfew is on, and the police do have the authority to make the arrests anyway.
A question for you now that we put to Ann McDermott just a few minutes ago. How much of the looting and the violence and the anger that we're seeing is sparked in any way by the LAPD trial? How much of it has its sources elsewhere?
The police and other authorities around here seem to believe that the impetus, the beginnings of the demonstrations were indeed rooted in the King verdict, in the police verdict in Simi Valley. However, other people come to these demonstrations with other agendas. We saw that a year ago when the anti-war demonstrations were on, and there was a considerable amount of damage to police vehicles and to public buildings. That damage, the police later said, was caused by people not at all connected with the issue at hand. And police tonight are hinting broadly that that's the case here, that there are folks with their own ideas about looting, wanting to steal, taking advantage of an opportunity, and causing civil disturbance.
Okay, CNN's Greg Lefebvre reporting to us live from San Francisco, where once again a state of emergency is in effect. Leon?
Well, Jonathan, the anger on the streets of America is reflected in a new survey. That story's coming up on Newsnight Update. Plus, President Bush says he'll do what he can to heal the wounds in Los Angeles. We'll find out his strategy in just a moment.
Put more than one person in the average New York City hotel room, and before long, They're bouncing off the walls. But at Embassy Suites, you get a spacious 2-room suite, 2 remote TVs, a microwave, 3 phones, complimentary breakfast, and much more. All for the price of an ordinary hotel room. Twice the comfort and twice the value. Embassy Suites, New York. It's twice the hotel, even if we only have 1 door.
Recently, the International Motorsports Association held a decathlon, performance and control. Over 22 days, 7 cars competed in 10 events to determine which was best overall. It wasn't Acura or Volvo, nor Mercedes or Mazda, nor Lexus or BMW, but the Audi 100 V6, the IMSA Decathlon Gold Medal winner.
This is a reminder that your puppy is not a dog. A puppy needs almost twice the nutrition of a fully grown adult dog. And Puppy Chow brand puppy food has all the extra nutrition your puppy needs. So he'll grow up to be big and strong and mature, just like Daddy. So feed your dog adult dog food and feed your puppy Puppy Chow from Purina.
They've been embarrassed by scandal, bogged down by bureaucracy, and now they're quitting in record numbers. If our government doesn't work for them, how can it possibly work for us? The People's House, Friday, 8:30 Eastern on CNN.
A new survey shows most Americans believe the jury reached the wrong decision when it acquitted 4 L.A. police officers of beating Rodney King. The poll was taken Thursday night. In the USA Today poll, only 11% said the jury's verdict was right. 89% said it was wrong. When asked if they believe the justice system is biased against blacks, 36% of the whites surveyed said yes. 81% of the blacks said yes. Those surveyed were evenly split when asked about the rioting in Los Angeles. About half said it's justified, while almost half said it's wrong but understandable. And 44% of the respondents said there's considerable police brutality against minorities, while 10% thought there is very little.
President Bush Thursday condemned the violence in the streets of Los Angeles, and he promised the Justice Department would beef up its probe of police conduct in the King beating case. During a campaign appearance in Columbus, Ohio, the president renewed his appeal for calm and called on the entire nation to condemn racism and violence.
We must make a compact with each other that we will not tolerate racism and bigotry and anti-Semitism and hate of any kind, anywhere, anytime. Not over the dinner table, not in the boardroom, not in the playground, nowhere. We must condemn violence and make no apology for the rule of law or the requirement to live by it. And yes, in some places in America there is, regrettably, a cycle of poverty and despair. But if the system perpetuates this cycle, then we got to change the system. We simply cannot condone violence as a way of changing the system.
The president is expected to meet about 8 hours from now with a group of black leaders.
Coming up on Newsnight Update, some of the other headlines: a girl is dead and dozens of people are injured after a freak car accident. The details when Newsnight Update returns.
In an average day, Michael Jordan runs the length of the court 165 times and enjoys 1 bowl of Husky whole grain Wheaties with breakfast. So, can fueling up with satisfying energy food like whole grain Wheaties help keep you going?
Could hurt.
Better start out right.
You better eat your Wheaties. I was already late for my meeting when my flight landed. Lucky for me, someone left a courtesy car. I had to get to Dollar Rent-A-Car fast. Sure, I would have loved to stop for a cup of coffee, a donut, a Limburger cheese taco, and fries, but there was no time. Besides, my expense account was about as tight as spandex on a beauty queen. Yep, Dollar Rent-A-Car was the obvious choice. They're right on the airport with low rates.
Welcome to Dollar. How was your flight?
Not bad. One more flip, I would have nailed a triple. Anyway, I'm in a hurry right now. I need a rental car I can afford.
No problem.
Please report runaway courtesy cars to the main office.
Call your travel consultant or Dollar at 1-800-800-4000.
Introducing Rice-A-Roni in the resealable canister. Make as little or as much as you want and get that same great taste. So you can serve the whole gang or just part of it.
The San Francisco treat.
Tomorrow, trying to stop the rage. What will cool a community that's on fire? On Cryer and Company. Then on NewsHour, Killer Bees. How Texas is trying to sting back. All tomorrow on CNN.
Mercury Sable continues to distinguish itself as a leader in automotive design. This year, we redesigned the exterior, the interior, the instrument panel, and equipped it with dual airbags, a feature not offered by any other manufacturer in this class. Other than that, we've pretty much left it alone. All this and the quality of a Mercury.
When your PC network's down and lost time turns office productivity to panic, you'll wish you'd bought a reliable HP server. When connectivity's got you tied up in knots, HP Network Management and Mass Storage Solutions can finally set you free. When more time is spent inline than online, it's time for an HP LaserJet Network Printer. Powerful business solutions from Hewlett-Packard and Micro-Age Computer Centers.
For tires, there's only one name I look up to.
America's #1 name in tires.
And there's one tire store that I trust.
Is now at America's #1 tire store. Goodyear comes to Sears. And right now, selected Goodyear tires are introductory priced.
I got Goodyear tires. I got them backed by Sears. I don't need to hear anything else.
America's #1 tire now at America's #1 tire store.
Who's going to back you better than Sears?
Oh, it was nuts. Absolute chaos. Every day was a different surprise. I can't afford surprises. I had to find something to help me keep this place under control. That's exactly why we got this Honeywell control system. We're more efficient now, conserving raw materials, turning out a better product. Sure, we could survive without it, but who just wants to survive?
Honeywell, helping you control your world.
A field trip to Chicago's O'Hare Airport turned deadly Thursday as an elderly man lost control of his car and plowed through a group of children. The children from Sycamore, Illinois had just gotten off 2 school buses when the car drove onto the sidewalk. 1 child died and 88 people, many of them children, were injured.
My back was turned. The next thing I know, I was on the hood of this car waiting for it to stop.
Yeah, we saw it, but he was going so fast. You just tried your best to get out of the way.
There was a car that struck a whole bunch of children. They were laying over there. They were bleeding, crying, screaming. The passengers and the bystanders were trying to administer first aid to them.
The car's 87-year-old driver told police he thought he hit the brakes, but that his car accelerated and he was not able to stop it. He was cited for negligent driving and operating an unsafe vehicle.
The House of Representatives has voted to overturn the gag rule, the rule that prevents federally funded clinics from telling women about abortion. The measure passed 268 to 150, far short of the number needed to override a presidential veto. The bill would deny federal funds to any clinic that did not provide abortion information, but an amendment would prevent punishing clinics that refuse to offer abortion information on religious or moral grounds. The bill now goes to the Senate. The economy may not be hitting on all cylinders, but at least the engine's running. That outlook from an analyst optimistic about 3 new economic reports. The Labor Department reports the number of new claims for unemployment benefits remained unchanged last week. Orders to factories rose last month, and the index of leading economic indicators increased in March. It was up 0.2%, the 3rd straight month of increases. The index is a gauge meant to predict economic activity 6 months ahead.
While President Bush is looking to the private sector to help cities and states raise money, he said they can sell public facilities such as airports and roads to private companies. Those facilities were built with taxpayers' dollars. Mr. Bush said in many cases the private companies can provide the services more efficiently. But some mayors and governors are questioning whether this is the best way to raise money.
We've been telling you about the violence that's been hitting U.S. cities in the wake of the Rodney King verdict. Well, shockwaves from the verdict and its violent aftermath are being felt abroad. One London headline reads, "Hell breaks loose in race-hate city." A Parisian newspaper says the riots shocked an America already questioning itself more than usual about its values. Many Europeans sympathize with what's happening in the U.S., as CNN's Rob Reynolds reports.
Say 9 people have died in rioting that's...
Throughout Europe, newscasters showed scenes of violence and death on Thursday, not this time from Yugoslavia or Nagorno-Karabakh, but from Los Angeles, California. And it was closely watched in Moscow and Rome and London. The police. The independent television news interviewed a British journalist who was attacked by rock-throwing rioters.
And I had to drive up the wrong the wrong side of the street at about 40 or 50 miles an hour, weaving in and out of bodies and avoiding rocks. Not everyone's idea of California.
But many Europeans do share an idea of the United States as a violent, racially divided society, an idea confirmed by the Los Angeles rioting.
I mean, my perception of the United States is it's very violent, and it's like the whole access to guns and the gun laws and the whole sort of gun industry over there has got a very powerful lobby.
Presumably it goes back to the frontier days, does it? When every man for himself.
The videotaped beating of Rodney King was widely shown in Europe. Many people were bewildered by the California jury's verdict.
Das Urteil halte ich für äußerst schlecht.
I consider the verdict the worst possible. It has been proven that these policemen have heavily mistreated their victim, and the non-guilty verdict is a disgrace, in my opinion. A disgrace for the American justice system.
There's only one way to describe it: disgusting. It's an outrage.
The British capital is no stranger to racial violence. The worst riots to occur here in recent memory burned the streets of Brixton in 1981. And as in the Rodney King case, friction between police and residents of the depressed neighborhood provided the spark. More recently, increased activity by neo-fascist groups has worried many observers who've spent time on both sides of the Atlantic.
We have had our race riots, and therefore, while looking at what is clearly a very dangerous and tragic situation, we should be careful not to be, as it were, too self-righteous about it.
But many British people say racial disturbances as severe and as violent as those in Los Angeles could not happen here. One reason, they say, is that the U.S. is virtually saturated with guns, unlike any nation in Europe. Rob Reynolds, CNN, London.
If you loved me half as much as I loved you,
his voice is loved around the world.
You wouldn't worry me.
The rich, warm sound of Roger Whittaker.
Once in a while he won't call.
Now, Heartland Music presents Roger Whittaker in his all-new collection, Sincerely Yours.
Oh, my Papa, to me he was so wonderful. I can't stop loving you.
Roger's voice is more beautiful than ever in his all-new collection.
I remember the night and the Tennessee Waltz.
2 great albums.
Did you ever know that you're my hero?
All your favorite songs.
And everything I'd like to be. Hey, won't you play another somebody done somebody wrong song? Down the lane I walk with my sweet Mary.
Remember, Roger Whittaker's all-new collection is not in stores.
I'll be loving you.
Stay tuned to order.
Always.
or to call toll-free 1-800-257-1257 to save all COD charges and pay only $12.98 for records or cassettes or $16.98 for compact disc, plus $3 shipping. Use your credit card or send check or money order to Roger Whittaker, P.O. Box 8250, Atlanta, Georgia. Remember, to save all COD charges, send check or money order or use your credit card.
This is CNN.
This is CNN Worldwide Update. News without borders.
Violence spreads and the death count grows in the Los Angeles riot.
Trying to save the starving in Somalia.
And Holocaust Remembrance Day around the world.
Hello to our viewers around the world. I'm Leon Harris in Atlanta.
And I'm Jonathan Mann. This is Worldwide Update. We'll have more on those stories, but first continuing coverage of our top story. Rioting is spreading across California and is worse than the violence that erupted yesterday. San Francisco is the largest city to be terrorized. Vandals are shattering store windows along the main street of downtown, and the city is now under a curfew. 340 people have been arrested. Police say they expect to make more arrests. National Guard troops are on the streets in Los Angeles trying to stop the looting there. That's where the rioting began yesterday after a jury acquitted 4 white police officers of beating a black motorist. 23 people have been killed in the rioting. More than 900 have been injured in Los Angeles. The vandalism also has spread to such cities as Beverly Hills and Pasadena, where store windows are being smashed, and in Hollywood, buildings are being set on fire.
From Los Angeles to Atlanta, San Francisco to New York, the reaction to the verdict was swift, angry, and often violent. While civil rights leaders called for calm, many black Americans expressed a sense of betrayal. CNN's Mark Leff has this report.
Around the country, people are angry, demonstrating at state capitals in Texas and in Idaho in the first few hours after the acquittal in California. In some places, people did more than march. Because of trouble on the streets of downtown Atlanta Thursday afternoon, the mayor ordered a citywide curfew from late night until dawn. The trouble began not long after a peaceful prayer rally at the tomb of civil rights leader Martin Luther King, Jr.
So not only are we here today to stop the killing in Los Angeles and stop the killing in the suites, we must stop the killing in our own community.
Somebody broke into a police garage in Wisconsin, damaged nearly 36 police cars, and left a note linking the action to the Los Angeles verdict. The bells at the Church of St. John the Divine in New York rang to demonstrate what church officials called solidarity with the people of Los Angeles, while a city councilman whose father represented Harlem in Congress condemned the verdict.
It makes you hate this country, the United States of America. It makes you hate that flag. It makes you hate cops, and it makes you hate all white people who can even think of beginning to excuse this verdict.
Joining Powell and other community leaders, a woman who says her son was choked to death last year as New York City police tried to subdue him.
It's injustice for all of us, people of color. And I wonder, is it ever going to change? We're tired. We really are tired of this, and we can't take no more.
There is anger, too, in Minneapolis.
As for that lie, there's only a minority of police whooping our heads. That's a damn lie. That's a damn lie. The minority is the few that don't whoop our heads.
And at the National Black Police Association convention in Atlanta,
beware, because you're going to see police officers drawing guns and fighting other officers now. Because we are not going to accept the verdict as it came down.
Demonstrators blocked traffic on the top deck of the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge. Around the country, many people are looking at the not guilty verdicts in Los Angeles and asking why. And a few are using the same event to ask, why not? Mark Leff, CNN, reporting.
For the latest now on that situation in the streets of Los Angeles, we go live to CNN's Ann McDermott. Ann?
What I can tell you right now is the smell of smoke seems to be everywhere. And as of about an hour ago, firefighters in the city We're battling more than 100 separate blazes, fires that are erupting throughout the city, and indeed the violence seems to be spreading. It seems to be leapfrogging. The list of communities in and around the Los Angeles area that are being affected by the disturbances just keeps growing and growing. CNN's Greg Lamont has more on this second night of violence.
The forces of the police and the National Guard are combining. There have been more deaths. This man was shot in the back and the head while standing on the street. Even the paramedics who showed up to help say they are fortunate to be alive because rioters fired bullets at them while they were trying to save the victims of this violence. The fact is, there are too many looters, too many arsonists, and too few police officers to do anything about it. Police stand helplessly by as hundreds of looters bash their way into stores and take seemingly whatever they want. The looting is sporadic, but it is citywide. Hollywood and Beverly Hills are affected. 3 major banks have been closed down out of fear of robbery. Most stores have closed in the downtown area, but looters just crash through the gates and glass with no fear of being caught. In fact, the police, when they do see it, only try to scare them away. Given the level of crime here, only a handful of people have been arrested because police are too busy trying to contain certain areas, not make arrests. The stores that are looted, it's almost like a feeding frenzy. They pour in, grab what they want, and run out. There is thick black smoke everywhere from the hundreds of fires that have been set. The National Guard is now on the streets, but it seems as each hour passes, the strength of the masses grows. People realize they can get away with something, so they do. And nobody seems to know when it will end. The scene in Los Angeles is sickening, and every effort imaginable is being made to try to stop it before the masses grow and the violence grows worse. Greg Lamont, CNN, Los Angeles.
Again, there are still plenty of fires here in Los Angeles. There continue to be sporadic pockets of looting, and police continue to make arrests.
And just a quick question about the looting that's going on there. Does it seem as though it's starting to ease some, and also, is this something that's a result of a genuine protest against this verdict from the trial, or is this just opportunistic lawlessness?
Well, as far as the easing of the looting, it seems like in one area where it will ease off and the police come in and secure the area, it seems pockets erupt elsewhere. There does seem to be a great element of lawlessness involved in this. However, one looter was seen being arrested just a short time ago by one of our CNN camera crews. As he was being arrested, he was standing next to a wall, and on the wall it was written, "This is for you, Rodney King. We love you, brother." So the outrage about the verdict appears to be still a factor.
All right, thank you very much, and we'll keep an eye on that story. Jonathan?
Turning further afield, in Bosnia-Herzegovina, commandos blew up 2 key bridges linking that former Yugoslav republic to Croatia.